Hello, fellow patriots and lovers of liberty. It's time for another short video. We got the judge's order back from court that we had on Thursday morning. Now, if you all recall, uh, on Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, we received an email that the plaintiffs were filing another temporary restraining order. It was this right here. That's 93 pages. 93 pages. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe must get paid by the page. But anyway, 93 pages. We received it FedEx Wednesday morning, or Wednesday during the day sometime. It was on the porch. When we got to court, they were trying to push for it, and the judge had only received it that morning. And thank you to all the other fellow patriots that showed out. We pretty much filled the gallery with a lot of people. I never did a head count, but there was a bunch of people there to listen to the hearing. But their lawyer wanted to argue that he wanted to have a hearing on this TRO that morning and have the judge issue the order. And Stan Sala from Lenawee had posed some objections, and of course his were very studious and very legal. He cited different Michigan court rules, why this wasn't proper, why it shouldn't be done. The plaintiff's lawyer got up and argued, well, he could have filed it ex parte. Okay, well, if he could have filed it ex parte, why didn't he? Why did they turn it into such a circus? If he could have done ex parte, then he's a legal professional. He should have done it ex parte. And that was my argument when I got up to the stand. I said, the lawyer says he could have filed it ex parte, Your Honor, then why didn't he? Instead, he's expecting us to have this hearing and answer 93 pages of something we didn't have a chance to read. He must have thought we were in Congress or something. 47,000 page bill and one day to read it, and we gotta pass it to see what's in it, right? That's kind of the attitude it was. The judge wasn't buying it. He said no. Well, he took a recess to read it, and he listened to our arguments. Some of the arguments we had is there was patently false information in here. One of the things is that they said that Darren Wisely had violated the restraining order, and it was in contempt of court because he published called a convention after the first temporary restraining order. And that was wrong. In fact, David Mosby had an email between him and plaintiff's lawyer prior to this being written, in which he explained that David was the one that set that called a convention out after the injunction, or after the restraining order. One had gone out prior, and then as the restraining order of November 15th, one went out after that. David Mosby admitted and explained it in email to plaintiff's attorney that he had done that inadvertently, not realizing that Darren's signature was at the bottom of it. So there's no way they could have held that, but yet they said right in here that that's what Darren did. So even the lawyer patently knew it was untrue. Didn't matter. He still put it in the motion. And then Brent Leininger knew it wasn't true and signed it under penalty of perjury. There was some other untruths in here. Their plaintiff's lawyer said this all hinged on the meeting of 825 when they got together and voted us out and them in. And the reason for doing that and all of this mountain of paperwork that they filed was because we violated the bylaws. Well, they violated the bylaws too. We can prove that. Jonathan Lindsay, Senator Lindsay, was never invited to that meeting, and he was supposed to be. And Senator Shirkey was invited to that meeting and wasn't supposed to be able to vote. There was other executive members that weren't invited to that meeting as well. So under the legal doctrine of unclean hands, their motion never even should have been accepted by the court. This whole debacle shouldn't even have started because of unclean hands. There's many other uh, legal doctrines that this should never have been taken by the court. One of them is the political question doctrine. Now, there's some debate among scholars on that, but most of them agree that if it's a dispute between one major party and another major party, then based on the facts of the case, it may be appropriate for the court to be involved. But almost always, if it's a problem within one party that's an administrative issue, the courts generally agree that that's the political question doctrine, and the court shouldn't be involved. So on those two doctrines alone, this case never even should have grown legs, but yet now we've got an entire forest cut down just in paperwork. It's ridiculous. You should have saw the two huge binders of just all this paperwork that they've created on top of us. Now, it's frivolous and it's for harassment and intimidation. It's legal warfare. It's scorched earth is what they're trying to do because their feelings are hurt. So the judge issued the order. There's a couple important things that we need to bring out in this order. The judge said in here, he said, Michigan Court Rule 3.310B provides that a temporary restraining order may be granted only if it clearly appears from specific facts shown by affidavit or verified complaint that immediate and irreparable injury, loss, or damage will result from the delay required to effect notice or from the risk that notice itself will precipitate adverse action before an order can be issued. In quotation marks, in order to establish irreparable injury, the moving party must demonstrate a non-compensatable injury for which there is no legal measurement of damages or for which damages cannot be determined with a sufficient degree of certainty. The injury must be both certain and great, and it must be actual rather than theoretical. Now, that's the important part. It can't be theoretical. In the instant case, plaintiff argues that it will be injured by defendants interfering with plaintiff's properly elected delegates at the Republican State Convention. The court finds that at this point, such injury is not certain, but rather theoretical. Plaintiff's motion states that the convention begins on February 17, 2023, and that the new defendants have created a controversy by challenging the validity of plaintiffs' delegates to the convention. However, the MIGOP's Credentials Committee is scheduled to meet on February 3, 2023, to address this issue. It is entirely possible that the Credentials Committee resolves the matter in the plaintiff's favor. If that is the case, plaintiff will not have been injured. If the Credentials Committee does not resolve the matter in plaintiff's favor, the potential for a judicial remedy remains available. Further, the court finds that at this juncture, the defendants would suffer a greater harm than plaintiff if the requested order is entered. The requested order would effectively deny defendants the opportunity to have the matter heard by the Credentials Committee. Finally, the court finds that there is a significant public interest in allowing the MIGOP the opportunity to address this intra-party dispute before any potential intervention by the court. The public interest will be better served by MIGOP resolving its intra-party matters in accordance with any applicable laws and its own rules. The potential for court intervention remains available if either side believes MIGOP errs in this task. Under these circumstances, the court finds it inappropriate to deprive MIGOP the opportunity to address the dispute. Therefore, plaintiff's verified motion for temporary restraining order is denied. That's the judge's order. Now, there's some important things to bring out in here. First off, their motion had inaccuracies in it. Second off, they said that that they could be harmed, but it was theoretical harm. It wasn't actual harm, it was theoretical. The judge made a very sound decision here and articulated it very well. He says I'm sorry, it says, if that is the case, plaintiff will not have been injured. If the Credentials Committee does not resolve the matter in plaintiff's favor, the potential for a judicial remedy remains available. Now, that judicial remedy isn't with us. That judicial remedy is with MIGOP. They would have to pull the state party into the suit. Darren brought that up at the hearing. He said, Your Honor, if they're making these complaints and they're trying to keep us from going to the credentialing committee, then it seems that MIGOP is part of this suit. And as of yet, they have not pulled MIGOP into this suit. So don't know why we're here arguing this. Darren made a great point on that. And the judge obviously recognized that point and has it here. And further down here, it says the public, where it says, finally, the court finds that there is a significant public interest in allowing MIGOP the opportunity to address this intra-party dispute before any potential intervention by the court. So any potential intervention by the court. So what are they talking about? Well, if the credentialing department goes for them and we don't like that, we could sue MIGOP. If the credentialing department goes for us and they don't like that, then they can sue MIGOP. The other thing is that state convention is like a corporation's meeting of the stockholders, right? So all those precinct delegates that are there that are to vote, they are the board of directors and shareholders of the corporation. With a 2/3 vote, if it's put on the floor and 2/3 of those precinct delegates decide to change whatever it was that the credentialing committee did, they can. And when that 2/3 vote goes, it's a done deal. It's set. The issue is set. At that point in time, what happens is the losing party would have to sue MIGOP, the state party, and in doing that, what they would be doing is suing all precinct delegates at that convention. They would be suing all the shareholders and the board of directors and the corporation itself. That's what this is getting at. So the judge thinks that the public interest will best be served by the administrative relief through MIGOP, which they always have had the administrative relief. So there's another reason why this case should never have been in the court, is because they hadn't exhausted their administrative reliefs. I brought all this out in my first motion, that their lawyer rendered moot with an adjournment on my motion that threw it out 3 weeks. So now, one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to say that somehow the judge's first order injunction somehow gave Brent Leiniger and his group the party and made them the official officers by the court order. That's a misconception in all their paperwork. Now, let me tell you why. Because the judge's order said that, therefore, it is ordered that defendants shall not, and remember, defendants, there was only 6 of us. Therefore, it is ordered that defendants shall not assert or attempt to assert any authority over, interfere, or attempt to interfere with, participate, or attempt to participate in the operation of the Hillsdale Republican Party until this court has rendered a final decision on the merits of this case. Right after that order was done, we all resigned. Now, what happened was our party is full of leaders. Other leaders stepped up, grabbed the baton, and did that on their own. That wasn't us. That was them. And they did a great job. Hats off to them. And we've got some strong leaders. David Mosby, top notch, great guy. Josh Gutzmaker, he's a real level kind of guy. And David's got that same characteristic. He's got that same personality. He's very level, very even-headed, very logical, very critical thinking. He's a great leader. Adam Stockford, another one, very level-headed, very fair. thoughtful, critical thinking. So we've got some great leaders that stepped up. But somehow they think that order, when they sued 6 of us individually, they didn't sue the America First group. They sued the 6 of us individually. I don't know. Was that a bad legal call? I don't know. They'd have to ask their Dewey Cheatham and Howe high pressured law firm that they hired. They should ask them that, whether they screwed up or not. I don't know. Maybe the plaintiffs could sue their lawyer for bad representation. I don't know. But that's what that said. Now, that being said, I got another problem. Story came out by the Collegian newspaper. Here a few months ago when this thing first started, their reporter kept calling me and badgering me. He wanted a statement. He wanted me to give an interview. He wanted a statement from me. And I told him, I said, well, I won't talk to you guys because you guys have a history of not reporting things properly. You're fake news. And you're learning journalism to be fake news, just like the Communist News Network and MSNBC and all the rest of them, the fake news networks. They're learning this in college, and they must be teaching it at Hillsdale the same way, because these guys are doing exactly the same thing. And let me point it out. Let me bring out some issues here and see what you think. So in the Collegian article that just came out, here's what they wrote. This order barred, quote, American First, unquote, group from county GOP activity while the suit is in court. Is that what the judge's order said? Let's just, for fun, let's read that judge's order again. What did it say? It said, therefore, it is ordered that defendants, not America First Group, because the America First Group wasn't a defendant on the heading of that. The only people that were defendants on the heading of that are Darren Wisely, Lance Lashway, John Smith, Jon-Paul Ruthian, Josh Gritzmaker, and Bell Steyer, who shouldn't have been part of the case. They really messed up there. But anyway, those are the defendants. It says, therefore, it is ordered that defendants, those 6 people, shall not assert or attempt to assert any authority over, interfere, or attempt to interfere with, participate, or attempt to participate in the operations of the Hillsdale Republican Party until this court has rendered a final decision on the merits of this case. Now, let's go back to the Collegian article again. This order barred the America First group from county GOP activity while the suit is in court. Doesn't sound like the truth to me. Sounds like a lie, right? See, this is the problem with reporters, right? The journalists, they're trying to tell a story. But see, the thing is, what they do is they tell a story and they don't tell the whole truth. They tell a story in such a way that you get this vision in your mind, and that may not be exactly what it was, because they're telling a story instead of reporting the truth and letting you decide for yourself. This is clearly a lie. It's shoddy reporting and it's horrible. And this is what we get all the time. This is why I told that reporter from the Collegian, I won't talk to you, because it doesn't matter what I say. You're going to say whatever you want to say. You're going to paint a word picture however you want to paint it. And it's not necessarily going to be the truth. Remember, when you go into court, you have to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the reason for that is because all truth with a couple things left out is a perfect lie, right? So you got to tell the whole truth. And this isn't even just telling the truth, leaving a full things out. This is just a flat out lie. This order barred the America First group from county GOP activity while the suit is in court. That's not what the order said. You heard it for yourself. That's a lie. The other problem I have with this story is this. County Commissioner Brent Leiniger, who has led the other faction since August, said he wants the Republican Party to be a broad tent that covers a spectrum of views. You mean so broad The Commissioner Wiley said he was glad that Proposition 3 went through because he believes in a woman's right to her body, when that goes completely contrary, absolutely 180 degrees from the values, the conservative values of the Republican Party. The conservative values of the Republican Party is that we hold life sacred. I believe a woman has a right to her body too, but the baby has a right to its body as well. See, with rights come responsibilities. The baby has a right to life as the mother has the same right to life. So that is it, that's like saying, well, I'm a Baptist, but I like to pray to Satan. No, I'm sorry. That's not one of our values. That's not even close to one of our values. So maybe the tent's too broad, Brent, right? It's so broad that we've got Democrats in our local government. Mark Wiley's a good example. Big government, more spending, no transparency, cover up whatever we can cover up, believe in Proposition 3. Shoot, we had Mike Shirkey, who sponsored a House bill for national popular vote interstate compact. Do you realize how that will push us into a direct democracy? And direct democracies are horrible forms of government. Madison says that democracy has always been incompatible with liberty. He said they're as tumultuous in their life as they are violent in their death. Now, we happen to know that democracies are short-lived and they end with socialist revolution. So do you really want a direct democracy? Because the only thing that's keeping us in a direct democracy right now is the Electoral College vote. The 17th Amendment took us halfway into a direct democracy. That was horrible. And we're still suffering from it. Do you really want a national popular vote so that we're in a direct democracy? So that we don't have a republic anymore and no longer have a constitution? Is that how broad we want this tent? See, this is what started the America First faction in Hillsdale, because we were sick and tired of the Republicans that were running it, that were so inclusive that they included anybody that had any value that was contrary to the true conservative core values of the Republican Party. Is that wrong? Is that wrong? I don't think that's wrong. I mean, the party itself, just by having a party, is exclusionary, just by nature. And Lauren Fink got mad at me one time. She said, "Well, we don't like how exclusionary your guys are going to be. You're not very inclusive." And I said, "Lauren, that's the problem. We've been so inclusive since the early 70s that we've got Democrats fully seated in the Republican Party. We have no longer an identity. We no longer are conservative, and we definitely don't have any values that are true conservative, constitutional, principled values. So yeah, we're going to be exclusive. We're going to exclude anybody that doesn't have those values, that doesn't practice those values." But Brent, on the other hand, wants broad tent, a broad tent that covers a whole spectrum of views. We love a spectrum of views. We love honest debate. We love spirited debate on views of our values within our party. Now, when are we going to have spirited debate of people with other views? Well, that's what I sent Mr. Fink to Lansing for. That's what he's supposed to do. Of course, he hasn't figured that out yet, but that's what he's supposed to do, right? At least Jonathan Lindsay, he understands that. He went up there. He had the cojones to get on the floor and offer a zero income tax addition to a bill. God love him. That, you realize how strong of a person that takes? You realize what kind of a warrior that takes to do that? He understands it. He gets it. Mike Shirkey didn't. We had such a broad tent that Mike Shirkey was allowed in. National popular vote, interstate compact doesn't have any place in the Republican Party. It should never have a place in the Republican Party. Abortion should never have a place in the Republican Party. If you truly believe in the sanctity of life, abortion has no place in our party. There's a party that accepts that. And if those are your views and your values, then you should just go to that party. They would accept you with open arms. I'm sure they would. And you would probably feel better there. So I'm all right with that. Go where you feel comfortable. But maybe the reason why all of our elected officials don't feel comfortable coming to the America First faction because they're not true conservative Republicans. They're so inclusive that they believe that abortion's okay. They're so inclusive that they think getting rid of the electoral college is okay. I'm not okay with those things. I'm not okay with that. And if you're a Republican and a conservative, you shouldn't be okay with it either. Now, the other thing is, it says at their convention, they had around 32 people that attended. You realize that's one of the biggest groups they've ever had? The biggest group they've ever had. Usually they have about 20 to 24 people at their regular meetings. They had about 32. At that same competing convention, the America First people had about 40 people. That's the smallest they've ever had. Usually, the America First people have between 60 and 120 people. Pretty consistent. Pretty consistent. Why is that? Why is that? Probably because the people of Hillsdale, the general people of Hillsdale, the hardworking people of Hillsdale are Republican and conservative and believe in the principles of the Constitution and love their country, love their nation, love their liberty, want to hand that liberty to their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren. That's why. It's not because we've got some voodoo power over people, although if you listen to J.J. Hodshire, and everybody's a Rutanite because some reason I got some voodoo power over everybody. I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just because I'm part of the common man and I understand exactly what the common man wants because I'm a common man. I want my children to have liberty. I want my grandchildren to have liberty. I believe in Christian principles and the Constitution. I believe in the sanctity of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I hold those things dear. Now, if you want to be a dependent and be safe, I'm happy for you. Be a dependent, be safe. But don't try to force that on me because you want to be a dependent and be safe. If you want to be a dependent, be safe. Be a dependent, be safe. I give you my permission. But leave me alone and let me live free. Let me live under liberty, and liberty's dangerous, it's not safe. I want to live under liberty. But what's going on is all of your elected officials chose to sue us, chose to waste all this tax money and time that they should be spent representing you in a representative republic, right? We're a republic, and the republic for which it stands in a republic, they're supposed to represent you. Why aren't they spending their time representing you? No, instead, they're busy doing this frivolous stuff against their own constituents. Who represents me when all of my elected officials are suing me? Who represents me? They took an oath. Who represents me? Elections have consequences. And it's been like this for a very long time. It's just now it's becoming very evident to people. And why? Not anything I did. It's because of what they're doing to us. It's because of what they've done. See, they're scared to death that their little reign of power will be gone. They're scared to death that they can't win fair. They have to cheat. In fact, in August, there was a convention and a rump convention. They challenged the Credential Committee and won. Now, in January, there's a convention and rump convention. We challenge the Credentialing Committee. They file a 93-page motion in a fast, quick hurry so that we can't read it, try to get the judge to subvert them, subvert the credentialing committee. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to tie the hands of MIGOP and the will of the precinct delegates, the shareholders, through legal fiat. Why? We allowed them to do it. We weren't afraid to compete on a level playing field, but they're not. They need to cheat to win. That's why they uh, tampered with the precinct delegate election in August of 2022. Yes, they did. Their fingerprints are all over it. See, Brent's not telling the whole story. He's not telling about the secret meetings that they had, him and Brady, when they decided to do this. See, we wouldn't have done the actions we did had we been allowed to compete on the ballot like everybody else. But we were restricted from competing on the ballot. I don't care what Marnie's excuses are. They were unethical and immoral. And she knows it. They didn't want to play fair. They wanted to cheat. They wanted to cheat because they had to win at all costs. Why? Because their power's on the line. And they're so afraid of losing their status and their position and their power. Why? Why is that? Are they afraid because of the way they treat us? That they're going to be treated the same way? I don't know. You make that decision. But I just wanted to bring these things out, right? This is the ramblings of a madman, right? Look, it's pretty simple. They caused the injury first. We didn't sue. We didn't stamp our feet. We just played with what we had. We tried to play fair. We tried to be fair. We allowed them their First Amendment right to the right of assembly. They tried to keep us from having the right of assembly. We allowed them to send a contest to the credentialing committee. They tried to keep us from being able to send a contest to the credentialing committee. You make the decision who is right and who is wrong. As for me, I can sleep at night and I can shave with my eyes open when I look in the mirror. That's all I care about. So, y'all have a good night. Thanks for listening.